Hi guys, I'm here with the Israel Baseball Archives. Today I'm interviewing my good friend. Can you tell us your name?
Yakir.
And how old are you and where are you from?
I'm 29. I was born and raised here in Israel. I'm originally from Petah Tikva, although I'm renting an apartment in Netanya, but I'm originally from Petah Tikva. I'm actually the closest player in the entire history of the Israeli League to this field.
Really?
So yeah, I live. You can say I live around the corner.
Wow. So did you grow up like playing baseball by these fields?
Nope. I did not grow up playing baseball. I have discovered baseball. You can say I've discovered it recently. I discovered it like 5 years ago. Yeah, about 5 years ago. Accidentally, actually. I zipped through channels and I found Fox Sports and I saw a baseball game there and I decided to, okay, I've never actually bothered to understand this game, so here's a shot. So I actually learned. I've actually come to learn that I'm very much fond of this game, and as someone who has never liked playing any ball games, this is the only ball game that I've ever liked playing, and actually being a part of a team.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. You live very close to the fields. Actually, you said the closest player ever. Never played baseball ever. Did you even hear about baseball when you were growing up, or?
Obviously, everybody knows the name baseball, but until the point on which I decided to seriously watch baseball games and understand the game, I didn't know anything about it.
And how long ago was when you first played baseball?
Come again?
When did you first play baseball?
About 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago? Okay, cool. I thought you said that. I was just making sure. All right, so what's your relationship with the IAB? Are you a player, a coach, umpire, or something else?
I'm a player.
For what team?
For the Jerusalem Lions.
Nice. Position do you play?
I play right field, sometimes left field, and recently I've been working on first base.
Nice. So you're kind of like a Chris Davis. You're a lefty too, right?
Yeah, I am a lefty.
Yeah, you got the lefty glove. I like it. Nice. What are some of your best baseball accomplishments?
Baseball accomplishments?
Yeah.
Well, on my first season here, I have actually somehow managed to hit a double. Somehow I just swung and I squared up the ball, and as the first hit that I've ever had as a, you can call it a baseball player, in a real baseball game with proper, with proper coaches and teams. Before I came here, I played recreational baseball with some people in Tel Aviv, and only 2.5 years ago, I came here to play.
Gotcha.
To play real baseball, and as a player, as part of a real game, the first hit that I've ever had was a double to right field. I pulled the ball to right field, and it actually scored a run. It was an RBI double, and that's an accomplishment that I'd like to remember.
Nice.
I have technically won the championship of this league with Tel Aviv.
Nice. It's impressive.
On my first season as well. And in general, learning this game as someone who did not grow up playing baseball is something that I consider an accomplishment, because with time I learned that that baseball isn't an easy sport. and it requires a lot of skill. And the good players that make it to the majors, they usually play the game since very early age. And if you don't have this advantage of playing baseball as a little kid, then it's much harder to start with it in a later age.
Yeah, so I mean, you've only been playing for a couple years and a couple years in this league, and you've had some decent success. That's good. Double in this league is hard, and you've only been playing a couple years. It's good talent. So that's impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I have been working hard. You can say that. I have been working hard. Just like I said earlier, it's the only ball game that I've ever liked playing. So I took the initiative and practiced on my own free time, and watched a lot of videos on YouTube to learn the game better, to hear tips of professionals, whether it's the physical aspect of baseball or the mental aspect of baseball, or in sports in general, and it has improved me. And in general, I can say that baseball has taught me things that I did not know before. When it comes to handling stressful situations, to handle failures, because obviously failure in baseball is very common. The success rate is very low compares to other branches of sports, and you got to learn how to deal with it. It's mentally strengthening experience for me.
Sounds like baseball's done you some good, and obviously you put in the work in, so it makes sense. I mean, it's a sport that it'll bring you down, but if you stay with it long enough, it'll help you out in some ways. Like you said, it helped you out in ways you never could have imagined, which is good.
Exactly. It teaches you to handle failure and to get up after you fall. And once you embrace this habit of handling this failure and continuing despite the failure, then you find yourself doing it in a lot other aspects of life.
Yeah, it's very important. Totally different question, but what do you like about the IAB?
What do I like about the IAB? I like that it's very family-like. We have a lot of age divisions, and you can find older people playing catch with little kids, which is something that I personally like to watch. The IAB is a good initiative here in Israel, especially due to the fact that most Israelis do not know anything about baseball. I mean, not that they do not know anything. It's more like they have never heard about it. It's a different game compared to other games like soccer and basketball, which are very common here, and teaching Israelis the game will definitely bring some sort. I believe that it'll bring some sort of change here in the whole culture of our country, because it's a little bit different. This game is a little bit different. It's unique. That's one of the things that I liked about it. This game is very unique. It requires a lot of focus and strategy, and just like I said earlier, the mental capability to overcome failures, which is much more difficult. At least I think so. Much more difficult than in other sports. And once Israelis get to know the other side of sports, which is this kind of sport, I certainly believe that it'll bring good influence on our society.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier that it's very family-like here. I mean, it's a little bit different than the States. The States, it's just complete competitiveness. Not that it isn't competitive here, but it almost brings in that Israeli value of family and just togetherness. So I think even though it's not the most Israeli of sports. Like most Israelis don't know of baseball. It seems like the cultures influence baseball and vice versa here, the people who play it.
Mm-hmm.
What can be improved about the IAB? And you can say whatever you want about that here.
Well, theoretically, a lot of things can be improved because the infrastructure is not complete yet.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that infrastructure demands a lot of resources, which are not always available. So, more fields will definitely be something very valuable to the IAB and to baseball in Israel in general. A professional Jewish player to come and aid with coaching, give us tips. We could use a professional player, a retired one or an active one, whether it's a pitcher or a very good hitter, to come and give tips, to coach a little bit. Something that I would really like to see is players like, well, they ended their careers long ago, but I think that having an ex-player like Sandy Koufax here would be great. Mm-hmm. I mean, having him here in Israel, that could be a very 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 nice event. Mm-hmm. As in, I personally think, and I have a lot of basis for that Sandy Koufax is one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and having him here could be great. As a person and as a coach, to contribute his part to the IAB, to baseball in Israel in general, and I have no idea why it hasn't happened yet, but if it'll ever be possible, then I'm into it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Israel baseball is definitely a work in progress. I mean, first and foremost, we could definitely use the fields. We now have 3 fields in Israel, so that'd be a major help. But it's definitely a lot better than it was like 10, 15 years ago.
I agree.
Yeah, and also you're right. If we had someone who's a professional player here who's Jewish, would definitely be an added bonus. If we had someone like that here, I think the program here would be a lot better too. I mean, Koufax to come here.
Absolutely.
Be more than happy about that.
Absolutely. And it'll also be a good thing, to have a Jewish player here, a retired one, who, just like Sandy, there's also what's his name? Ken Holtzman. Mm-hmm. He used to be here, and I think that he should return for a couple of visits.
Gotcha.
I mean, any help that we can get from the States, from Jewish players, would be definitely helpful.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good point. How can we do a better job about making people more interested in Israeli baseball? Like, how can people like you and me, or other players here, coaches, or even the people watching this, how can we do a better job at marketing Israeli baseball?
Just like we discussed earlier, baseball is unique. It's a different game. It's not like soccer or basketball. Mm-hmm. It is a lot less continuous. It's a game of a lot more stationary strategy, and in order to make this appealing to Israel, you gotta present yourself in the right way, concurrent with the sportsmanlike attitude here. I mean, the first thing that I personally think you should present is playing catch. Mm-hmm. Playing catch is rather simple, not so complicated. And before starting to teach people the game, which is at first it is quite complicated in my opinion. You should show the simple aspects of it, and make it look as good as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Showing them the active parts of the game at first will most likely draw their attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can show pitching. You can show catch warm up. You can take a pitcher who has a good arsenal and show various of good breaking balls, balls that are thrown very uniquely, like, I don't know, slider, something that Israeli people will not understand. I mean, I didn't understand at first, of course, when I first watched ball games. I couldn't recognize pitches. Everything looked the same to me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you approach an Israeli, you let him watch a pitcher from a certain angle that will show the exact course of the ball, and from up close, and the motion of the pitcher, that'll probably be something very unique to show them, because they'll be exposed to something that they have not seen yet,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll draw attention and interest. On TV, everything looks easy and simple, but if you actually bring baseball to them, and just like I said, the active parts of baseball in front of them, so they can actually see the difference, and see baseball from a distance of a few meters away from them. I can tell you that when I first came to play baseball, I felt way differently than when I watched it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
It felt way different. You could actually feel the game. It's a totally different feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to show the right aspects of baseball before you start teaching the rules, which are complicated, and before talking about the dynamics of the game. You have to have a simple approach, because what Israelis like to do is, take a soccer ball, go down with friends, start kicking it, start playing it. We're here in Israel. We are not used. We're not. People are not drawn to a complicated kind of sport.
Mm-hmm.
They like it simple.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, if you show them the basics, just having a catch, then I think they'll start to understand it, or just simple it down for them. Or even if they had a field day here where we brought over a bunch of people who just want to learn about baseball, just see what it's like. We just watch one of our PL games, had a good crowd, and they might be more into it rather than just sitting down and watching a baseball game.
I totally agree, because watching a baseball game right on the start isn't for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who do not know baseball will not understand unless it is perfectly clearly explained to them.
Mm-hmm.
So you must have this certain specific approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so last question. Do you think if there was more widespread information about Major League Baseball, if they had scores and standings and articles about them in the newspapers and online, and more accessible here, do you think more Israelis would be interested?
I assure you that more people would be interested. Having a baseball column in a famous newspaper here in Israel would be a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I'm not entirely sure how many people will be drawn to it, but he'll definitely draw some of them.
Mm-hmm.
It'll definitely help things become a little more common here.
Nice. All right, thank you for your time, Yakir.